Okay, it is Friedo, and this episode of Your Podcasters, it's just going to be an example of fun things you can do with a podcast. We've talked about how you can use a podcast to market your business, but you can also use a podcast just to have fun and talk to people and talk about interesting things. So this podcast, I'm featuring Pam and David Hardaway, and we're going to talk about some dating advice from Dave. We're calling this the Prettiest Girl at Sears. You're listening to a podcast episode where there's 3 people in the room. 2 are men, 1 is a female, and 2 of us are single, and 1 of us is happily married. But the 2 single guys have lots of dating tips. Guess that's not really working out too well, but David Hardaway is an expert. I'm going to call you an expert on how not to date, but we'll get into that. So go ahead and tell us about yourself and tell us about your dating tips.
As of late, I've been dating a lot.
Dave is 62, 63?
65.
You're 65?
Yeah.
You're doing pretty well for 65.
Well, thank you.
And Pamela is here. And Dave is 65. Doing pretty good for 65, like I said.
Yeah, definitely.
He can ballroom dance.
Really?
Mm-hmm. He can play the piano.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
He writes music. Mm-hmm. He's got some songs on Apple iTunes. I call it Apple Podcast.
I do.
On iTunes. He's very creative. But yet, for some reason, he's single. Did I say that he did ballroom dances?
You did.
I know. I just want to make that clear.
Yeah.
But for some reason, he's single.
Well, maybe it's a choice. Just hasn't met the right one yet.
No, let's talk about David like he's not in the room, okay?
Okay.
It's not his choice. He would love to be with someone.
Well, not to the point that he would be with the wrong one. That would be even worse.
Well, he's been with a couple wrong ones.
Quite a few.
And he learned from that, I'm sure.
Yes, I have. I have the scars.
Because you're either winning or you're learning.
That's right.
Okay. So there's the backdrop. Now, give us some dating advice.
Okay. I think when you're dating, is that the women have more, I guess, have more skin in the game, so to speak, because women get ready for a date longer than a man does. A man, you'll say, hey, let's go on a date. He'll throw on a shirt, maybe deodorant, and he's out the door. Mm-hmm. Where women is going to be, well, I got to get a babysitter. I've got to pay for the babysitter. I've got to get all dressed up. What am I going to wear? And I'm sure if you take a time lapse of the 2 hours before, man is just thinking about the date, where the woman is really spending a lot of time to get ready for the date. Would you agree?
Yes, it's definitely a lot more work for women to get ready for the date because of the expectations that men put on us.
Oh, okay. That's fair. And I would agree with that. And then also if I say, hey, would you like to go to this restaurant? And because I'm inviting you, I would expect that I'm paying because I've asked you to come with me.
Right.
So I know that today's movement of MGTOW, of men saying, no, I'm not going to.
Of what?
Of men going their own way.
Say that again. What's it called?
A MGTOW. It's a men going their own way.
Have you heard of this?
Their own way. No.
Men who are not just deciding they're not going to date anymore. They just decide that it's there's just nothing in it for them anymore, and which is, I think, sad. Because, there should be, you should have a strong relationship. You should have that helper. You should have that woman who's got your back. And I think it's sad today. Anyway.
We'll get into that later.
But, I mean, for me, I said I invite a woman. So today when they're saying, well, men shouldn't pay on the first date, I disagree because a woman has really put a lot into it, especially if she has children and especially if she has to pay for that child, for like a babysitter or...
Now, Pam, can you tell by what Dave is saying, and Dave, you can disagree with me if you want, but just in the short 4.5 minutes we've been talking, can you tell that Dave really likes single mothers?
Well, I was about to ask you, do you date many women who have children at home still?
Quite a few. Either that, quite a few. My mom was a single mom, and it was a funny thing. She would... mom was single mom when I was turning into the age of starting to date in my early teens. And it's funny, when she was dating, she would come home and tell me all about it. And she'd say, and of course, we're in Tulsa, but she'd say, when Oklahoma men ask you to go out for a cup of coffee, that's exactly what they mean. And I took that, and she'd always tell me, in the future, if you start dating, really make it someplace nice. She's not talking about McDonald's. She's not talking about Starbucks, but, maybe
At least Applebee's or Cheddar's.
something. Go to Cheddar someplace that, you can, it's quiet and you can talk and you can, talk about, anyway.
I always really liked Applebee's on a date night.
Now that being said, is that my very first date was, this is back, I was working at Sears in Tulsa, and I was in the early 80s, and this was back before credit cards, and it was, I just got my first paycheck. I paid it through week. Anyway, I go out, and I say, you know what? I got my first paycheck. I'm going to ask the prettiest girl at Sears who works there to go on a date with me. And my first red flag should have been when I went up to Beverly and I said, would you like to go on a date? And she said, where are you taking me? As if that was deciding as to whether she'd go on a date with me or not.
Well, maybe she was just nervous and was
later
trying to,
around.
get time to think about it.
Okay, now the numbers
Wait,
are...
real quick. I don't want to let this go.
All right, sorry.
Because one of the hardest parts about my job, and I got a very easy job, is coming up with titles for these podcast episodes. This one is going to be called The Prettiest Girl at Sears.
Anyway, so we go. So that should have been my first red flag, and of course, back then, steak and ale was the bomb. That was the place to go.
I do miss steak and ale. I'll tell you that.
And I know today people are going to laugh at me, or some people that are younger are going to go,
nice.
"What's that?" But anyway, I wish they'd come back because I really liked. Anyway. So we're on. So the first thing I say, after work we go, and Sears always paid in cash at the end of the week. So you had
so you worked at Sears too?
Yes, I did.
What'd you do at Sears?
I sold office furniture and candy. Actually,
I was going to say Sears always had great candy.
they did. And
Did you know that?
No.
one quick rule is that on Sears they let you eat as much candy as you want. You can't have cashews and you can't have the turtle caramel things, but anything else you can eat as long as you don't as much as you want. And what they want you to do is be so sick of candy you don't order
It's
anymore.
not a bad strategy necessarily.
You can't have the turtles. No, turtles were awesome, but anyway.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, so I digress.
So did Beverly go out with you?
She did, and she said, "Yes, I'll meet you at 7, and we'll meet at Steak and Ale." And of course, I go over there, and I knew that it just didn't feel right because as we're walking in, and sat down, the waitress, they called them that back then. She says, "What do you want? What would you like a menu?" She says, "No." And I thought, okay, she's got this thing memorized. Apparently,
The waitress said, "Hey, Beverly,
She's
do you
been
want
here
your
a
usual?"
lot.
that was the second red flag. He says, first of all, we'll have I'll have the shrimp cocktail. And I said, okay, we can share one. She says, oh no, we're not going to share it. That's mine. If you want one, you can order one yourself. Oh. Okay, red flag 3.
Was Beverly a big woman?
No, very beautiful. She was the prettiest
girl at
one at
Sears.
Sears. And anyway, as we go on, she just would not stop. She was going with the burgundy mushrooms, and she went with the salad, and she went, okay, I want that thing
Hey,
on
the salad
side.
bar
wasn't
at
it?
Steak and Ale was pretty bomb.
It was really, but it's just, would you shut up? It's just that she's like, I'll take the steak, and can we have the lobster, tail, and and I'm trying to now remember this is before credit cards, so it means if you don't have the cash, you're done. And I thought really now, of course, $72 doesn't sound like a lot, but you got to multiply that times. I guess 5 or however many.
Yeah, it's the
today.
equivalent of close to $400.
$400. Okay, yeah, that's all right. But she wouldn't shut up, and she, even the waitress is starting to go, what are you taking some of this home? It's like she's trying to load up the stuff. Anyway,
Girls got to eat.
Apparently, and so when the bill came, and I had 76 with me, the bill came to 71. Actually, which obviously doesn't sound like a lot now, but it was back then. And I could only leave a $5 tip for the waitress. And I felt so bad about that. I actually went back the week later and paid her
You're a
$20
nice
for her
guy.
trouble. Well, that gets me in trouble a lot. But what made it worse is after she was all done, she said, "Okay, I guess, thank you very much for dinner." And as we're walking out, her boyfriend, who's in a white Ford,
Beverly's boyfriend?
Beverly's boyfriend,
Oh my goodness.
is in a white Ford pickup in the parking lot. And as she's walking out, he revs up his engine and I guess pulls out. And she gets up into his truck and says, "Well, thanks for dinner, Dave. Have a nice day." And as she slammed the door, I hear them, as they're driving off, I hear them say, "Sucker." And they drove off.
That's mean.
That is mean. It was anyway, that was my first date.
That was really your first date.
My very first date I ever did.
Mm-hmm.
That answers a lot of questions.
Yeah, So, but I guess as far as dating now is that women do, I still feel that women really put a lot into the date to get there. So yes, you should pay. So I think we should just stop that argument and man up.
Completely agree.
Okay. One thing I like to do is that whenever you're talking with somebody, you don't want to talk about how many kids. I'm not having kids. Sorry. How many sisters do you have? Those are stupid questions. You want to ask, how do you feel about this? How do where'd you go growing up? But exes should be off limits. You
Really?
should not talk about exes and they should never mention anything about your ex unless it's. Unless they're crying a lot on the date, which I've had that happen, then you got to ask, what's wrong? And typically tell my husband would never do that, or hopefully my ex-husband sometimes.
Hopefully,
rather, but I've had that happen too. My current husband, but I've had that happen where they just cry the whole date, and you just say, "I'm listening," and you just okay. Anyway, going through the date, and obviously you want to. I tend to favor non-vegan women.
You want a woman who likes her red meat.
Well, it doesn't have to be raw. I'm not talking about, Conan over here, but, it should be, just let's have a nice meal. If we're going to go out, I don't want to go to Chili's and say, and for women, just as a pet peeve of just on dating, it is a pet peeve. It's just order the food. Don't do I'll go ahead and have number 4. But on the number 4, but instead of broccoli, can we put avocados and then we put the thing on the side and I want this on the side? Can we change this out and put this thing? That's not attractive.
Can I throw down a real quick?
Yes.
And I don't know if I have to tell you this or not. But any restaurant that has a number 4 is probably not what the woman's looking for on the first date.
It was a funny story, but it has nothing to do with dating. I was at a Whataburger. Gee, go figure.
But I was. Wait, we were on a date?
No, I was not. I was not on a date. Where I was at a Whataburger sitting down, and I remember there was a whole line of men in co-serve uniforms, and they were all in line. I guess they're on lunch, right? And they're going through, and I remember is that each man was going up to the counter. He said, "I'll take a number 1. I'll take a number 7. I'll take a number 4. I'll take a number 3." And that line is just running through. And then there's this woman that kind of comes up and said, "Okay, now I'm the number 4. Does that come with?" And the whole line is just going, "Gee."
And David said, "Beverly."
That's Anyway, I digress. But toward the end of the date, you want to say goodbye and thank you. It was a great day, great to know you. And you want to ask, probing questions. How do you feel about, current events? What do you like to do? And try to have something that you can talk about that they do. In other words,
something they like to do, a hobby,
right?
or
Like if you're,
recreation,
whatever they do, recreation, and maybe know something about it. Because you don't want to be interesting, you want to be interested in what they're doing, and I guess that's one of the rules.
I like that. That's a great rule.
Okay, that's a great rule as long as you're actually playing that out. You have to actually be interested. You can't just act interested.
Well, I would just.
Or at least I can't. I can't.
Regretfully, I would.
You can act. You can act interested.
I can act very
So I
well.
can't
Yes,
do that.
I've been anyway. Just follow up questions. Just how long you been doing that? How long?
Note to self: just because David Hardaway is acting interested in what I'm saying, that doesn't mean he is, because he can act it.
Friedo, on your dates, are you interested or interesting?
I don't have too many dates, and I am. Look, if I'll pull the curtain back on me. If I'm acting interested, I'm interested, because I can't fake it. I'm really. I've had people tell me that I'm friends with. You remember? You've never met this guy, but Doug from the bank, Comerica.
Yeah.
I was telling Doug that hey, I can't fake interest. He goes, "Oh yeah, I've seen it with you." I said, "What do you mean?" Because I like you. And he said, "Oh, but I can tell about 4 or 5 minutes into a conversation, I can see that you're looking around trying to escape." So yeah, so if I'm acting interested, I'm interested.
And don't forget that wine always makes other people more interesting.
What do you do for a living?
I am a wine rep, Friedo. Thanks for asking.
I think some things men do wrong, horribly wrong, is that they nonstop talk about themselves, especially their job, like they're trying to sell them. I have had so many dates, I guess, with a woman. It's seriously, it's like we're on a one-on-one, and let me try and close that deal for you.
She's trying to sell you. You're trying to sell her.
me. Well, no, I really hope that when I call, people don't think I'm trying to sell them cell phones. I think I really hope I'm not that guy that said, "Oh crap, Dave's coming. He's going to talk about the new iPhone." Geez, I hope that's not true. And if it is, my apologies. I really try not to talk about work unless you bring it up. But I think men have a horrible tendency to look at other women while they're on a date.
Yeah, that's not good.
That's horrible. I think she should be your main focus, and I think we should train on getting to know her instead of looking around going, okay, see if I can do better.
Once again, that's something you shouldn't have to be trained to do. That's something you should be with who you want to be with. And if you're with who you want to be with, you're focused on who you want to be with.
From other dates that I've with the women that I've talked to, they say that's a huge problem, and it happens a lot where men will just look around, or they horribly flirt with a waitress, server. Sorry, they will.
Is there a problem with waiters?
Well, I didn't think so, but apparently there is. So
I would think there's more of a problem with server.
Yeah, just either way, I don't know. You get in trouble either way, so it doesn't
Just
really
do
matter.
it this way, just to keep it safe. The chick that brings him on the
So I have been married 32 years, and y'all probably won't believe this, but I have never seen my husband oogle another woman.
Yeah.
Except one time.
Oh, really? Does he know? Did you
Yes. I told him. We were at his
he felt
20-year
awful.
high school reunion, and his high school girlfriend, I caught him looking, So
How'd you handle that?
I kidded him about it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And probably made him feel even more guilty
No.
because
We
you
laughed
took it
about
well.
it. She was still beautiful, but it was cool.
Yeah, but
I
guess
had
what?
him though, right? So
After 32,
Yeah, exactly.
I would say after 32 years, you win.
I won. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, that's never been an issue for me.
And I figure since you brought them, they should. I mean, they're the focus. That's really
Yes.
why you're paying for them to be there. And I hate to put it that way, but it is. I mean, it's you put an investment to try and get to know somebody, so you can hopefully improve your life, which is the ultimate goal.
I know this is a podcast, and people can't see what I'm about to show you, but look at this. This was on Facebook today, and I had to take a screen capture of it because it's so funny. It's a picture of something that's going on at a football game. Can you describe this, David, in your best description?
It's looks like a guy that's photographing a woman from behind.
It's an old man
Wow.
that's got to be he's got to be at least 40 to 50 years older than the woman that's standing in front of him, and he's taking a picture of her ass.
Yeah, don't do that on a date. That's a good dating tip.
Okay, so don't
all right. Okay.
don't look at other women.
Don't look at other women. Be focused on the conversation. Be in the game. Be in and be interested
Well, you said
in
a
what
word
you're
I don't
saying.
like, game.
Well,
Way too many games, and it sounds like
Well, that
you
was a
thought
figure
this
of
out.
speech.
I know, but it sounds like you're kind of playing a game too,
And how would
because
you
you're going to
say?
fake interest.
It's not really that you're faking it. Well, sometimes you have to because, I've been on a date where, it was just boring. She worked on with pavement.
She was the prettiest girl at the concrete company.
She worked for a concrete company, and she sometimes would go out into the field with the men and other. And I'm sorry,
I like the way you
it's
said
just-
she worked at pavement. She's the girl of the streets.
No, I could have used that. So let me guess, you work nights. Wear a lot of makeup and work nights. I don't know. Anyway. And I just you don't want to you never want to say, oh, that's boring, because I'm sure she has a very interesting story. It's just I couldn't come up with anything that I would be faint interested in how payment works. Anyway, but so no, it's not a game. It's being polite, but actually
Okay.
you want it to be you want to make them feel good. You want to make them feel really good about themselves. So like, hey, that's very interesting, and I'm glad you're here to talk about pavement.
Hey, Dave and I are a little bit different. Because I don't want to make them feel good. I want that to happen naturally.
Just because they're with you.
Well, yeah, and then very seriously, yeah. And not in a cocky way. I mean, I want them to want to be with me because I'm being myself and they like that, rather than I'm pretending to be interested so now they're happy. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? I'm doing a poor job communicating that, but
But haven't you described yourself as sneaky cocky?
I am
on
sneaky
occasion?
cocky, yes.
Okay.
What that means, okay, yeah, you're calling me out. That's good. Cocky is not a good thing, and I'm accountable to myself, and I'm able to look in the mirror and say, okay, here are your weaknesses, and I think being cocky is one of my weaknesses. So I don't want people to. So I'm working on that. I don't want to come off as cocky.
Well, there's a difference in confident and cocky, I think.
Yeah. What do you think I come off as either?
I think you come off more as confident and someone who's authentic. You're being yourself.
Okay.
I would agree.
Okay. Cool.
I agree with that.
That's what I want. That's my goal.
I mean, that doesn't mean
I
everything.
want y'all to
is-
think that.
Doesn't mean everything's good.
No, not at all. No, not very seriously, not at all. And I'm willing to say that. And I'm willing to look in the mirror and say, what am I doing wrong? But go ahead. It's about you, Dave. It's not me.
No, it's no, we're doing
This
fine.
is Dave's tips on dating.
Yeah, tips on dating.
I'm waiting for the good ones here.
He's
Okay,
had some
and-
really good tips. I have to say.
they're really. I think for men also is
Yeah,
that.
I'm trying to hold your feet to the fire, too. You're doing a good job
Okay.
here.
Thank you. All right. One thing, man shouldn't drink a lot at the date because I think you should have a sense of control. So 2 drinks tops. That's it.
Whoa, you're telling
I
that
would,
to a wine
I would
lady.
never go out with you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's because the one
No, I'm
because
kidding.
I think nothing's worse than becoming a liability at the end of the date. Where is he all right to drive home?
Oh,
Does
well,
he
that's
know-
why you Uber.
Well,
Right.
another thing is that you actually want to meet them at the restaurant is another
Yeah.
trick. The reason they feel safer because if
Say
you're-
once again, you just said trick. Once again, I'm holding your feet to the fire.
be the trick.
I don't want anyone. I
It's
don't want
a-
it to be a trick.
Well, it's not. Well,
I don't think he meant it like a
No, listen to
trick.
him. Let me explain. Sorry.
no. I say it's a
Why?
it's a-
Why do you meet him at the restaurant? Why is that?
make them feel comfortable that I don't know where they live. No, all right. How many times has a woman said
nowadays, that's what you do.
Nowadays, the guy says, "Tell me your address, your name, and everything." You come and pick him up, And now I know where you live, I know what you do, and I know what you work. Yeah, that's bad.
I
think.
completely agree with that logic.
All right, so
But let them drive that bus.
you know, you know. Now, if you get to know them and they kind of feel more comfortable with them, then absolutely you should go to their house and pick them up in their car. The car should be clean and not with a bunch of Whataburger wrappers everywhere. And good trick, not a trick. And I'd say the trick.
Let me tell you a quick story about something that happened to me the other night.
All right.
Is it going to be quick?
There was a very beautiful, attractive woman that got in my truck, and I let her in the truck, and then I go around to get in the car, and when I get in, she's looking at a receipt that was in my car, and it was a receipt from McDonald's.
I knew you were a meat eater. Anyway.
So, can I ask a question?
Sure.
If she meets you at the restaurant and if she Ubered, can she have more than
Yes.
2 drinks?
Well, yes. The women obviously. All right, I'm going to throw the man card. This is a woman going to drink as much as she wants,
Yeah.
But you don't. No, you don't.
You know, I'm mostly kidding about that.
And I am too. But if you are going to pick them up on the second or third date and they're comfortable with you enough that they're okay with you knowing where they're in what section of the city they're from.
Women can run background checks now.
Yes, thank
men.
God, because I'm awesome on a background check.
Really?
Oh yeah,
You can pay for these
I'm
services
undefeated.
to do it. I did it on my friend got divorced and met this guy on Twitter, and I was really scared for
Twitter
her.
not really known to be a dating site, but
I know. And he moved from one state to another to be near her, and it was freaking me out.
Oh, wow.
Anyhow.
What surprises me is that no one has invented yet, and this would be a great opportunity for business, is that a woman-run site that would rate your date with their name. So women would be able to see, hey, I'm going to go out with this guy. What is going on a
like
date
an
with
Uber
him like?
passenger rating.
Yeah, you're right. Like, oh man, it was a great date, or he was such a slob, or but you would actually rate your man that you had a date on.
Well, I think you'd have to have specific things to rate because people want different things out of the date. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
There's a Facebook site that is, are we dating the same man?
I didn't know that. Okay.
But
Have you seen that movie, The Other Woman? It's so funny. Anyhow, I won't go into it.
Okay.
Good tips, though.
okay,
All right. Okay.
keep going, David.
Okay.
He hasn't gotten to it.
And this is just off the cuff.
This is just off the
Yeah,
cuff.
because he hasn't gotten to where I want him to go.
Yeah, where to go? But I'm almost there. Okay. You're having a great time. The date's going well. Communication's flowing. You got some drinks in you. It's got a bourbon and Diet Coke, so nothing fancy and foo-foo. You're doing great. Bill comes. And honestly, this is one of my things I do is that I want to put my credit card in my pocket and never see the bill. I don't want that bill to touch the table. I don't want it to be an issue. I've had so many times where, or women have told me so many times that the bill will come out, open up, and they always put it in the middle. The server will put it in the middle, and the woman is like, am I supposed to pay? Am I supposed to do half? Am I supposed to...
By the way, on a date, always
Split
put your
the
phone on Do Not Disturb.
disturb. Yeah, sorry. Anyway, just it should never touch the table. It should the bill should be handed to you. You put the credit card in, and it's gone. And that way, the woman feels, I think, more comfortable as it instead of having it out there and just fester like, am I supposed to pay? What am I supposed to do?
Right.
And that's one of the things I do. And number two, I said to show appreciation, even if the date is going poorly. And this is the one he wants to.
It's one of the ones I want
This is
you
the
to go
one I
to.
go to. Is I always want to order dessert because I want to see if she wants to share the dessert.
Well, that's not even where I was going. Okay.
Okay. The idea is that do you share the dessert if she's going to do that or not? That bodes well if she says yes or no, I want my own. And I'm like, well, okay, fine.
Back to Beverly.
Back to Beverly. But But what I always like to do is I always like to give one that they take home. And the reason for that, if it's a cake or a cheesecake or whatever, the idea being is that as she's at home, she's going to tell her friends about the date. It's inevitable. The next day, how was that date last night? Oh, it was just disgusting. Hardaway, man, you just won't shut up.
But I got this great dessert.
But I got cheesecake, and then I said, oh, well, that was a class move. And I think,
Yeah.
and so instead of being a trick, maybe we should be called a class move, I think. Okay. So, yes, I think removing McDonald's wrappers from your front seat of your car. You never should have to say, oh, hey, let me get all this, garbage out of the front seat so you can sit down. It should be, you really should have a clean car. Anyway, that's
okay,
it.
Now, there's another trick. Let's see if David and I are on the same wavelength that David has told me that I think is one of the greatest stories. And it's hard to say this with David because when you say the greatest story, then he has another one. So let's talk about your pregame routine, at least on one date where you're going to a fancy restaurant that has a hostess.
Oh, okay. I wanted to make a good impression. So and I wanted to pick a nice restaurant. I just got a really big commission check. And I'm like, man, I'm not going to spend another day at Whataburger. I'm going out. So I have the date, but I arrived at 30 minutes early. And I walked into the concierge and this is in Garland, I think I was.
Well, there's a place that has a concierge in Garland?
Yeah. Surprisingly, I can't remember the city, but I walked in. It's a place I never go. And we were going to meet in a restaurant. And I always try to find a restaurant that's close to where they live so they feel comfortable in the surroundings. You don't want to say, hey, I want you to go to, Grand Prairie. You want to, you live in, you live in McKinney. Okay, well, let's find a restaurant in McKinney that you like to go to, and I'll take you there. Okay, but anyway,
I'll meet you there.
I'll meet you there, right?
Because I don't
want to know where you live yet, and how long you've been on parole, but I went there, and I was there 30 minutes early, and I walked in, and I handed the concierge, and she's very attractive. And I said, here's $20. I'm trying to make a great impression. And my name is David. As I'm walking in, can you at least act like that I come here a lot? Because it was a fancy restaurant, so it means that you come here a lot, that obviously that you are. Now, that is a trick. Yes, I know it's horrible. But it was a funny thing. She said, absolutely. She takes the 20 and it goes out. And it's a walkout. And it's not even 15 minutes. And I'm walking in and she says, Dave, so glad you're here. Come on in. And this must be... And I had interrupted. So this is Diane, and like, oh, yes, come right this way. I got your table set up for you.
She said, last week you were here with Beverly. And the week before, no.
And I thought it was a great impression, at least I thought, is to sit down. And actually, the date went very well. And I guess
that was a nice thing to do.
Well, except you can tell the part of the story that I really like. Would you like your usual bottle of wine, Mr. Hardaway?
Well, that's excellent. Was it a great wine?
He doesn't know. He just knows how much it costs.
I just know how much it costs. Yeah, that kind of backfired, but I deserve that. I deserve that because it was a trick. It's a trap. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You have more?
I don't want to go too long.
Okay. Well,
we've bored people enough.
No, not at all, because I'm going to give my assessment, and Pam's going to give hers. My assessment, and this isn't. It's usually ladies first, but I want to see if Pam agrees with me on this. You're way overthinking it.
Probably so.
There's way too much. You're not planning like a game plan for a fourth quarter of a football game. Just go on the date. Pamela?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I like some of the things you said that you did. You put a lot of thought and effort into it, and I think that's very nice. Everybody's different. I mean, Friedo, he just goes on the date. You actually think about it and plan and make this woman feel special.
Well,
That's great.
Friedo doesn't have to plan. Is that and I mean, anytime Friedo calls up a woman, it's oh my God, I was chosen.
Friedo didn't make that phone call. No.
Why do you say that about him?
Why would you say that?
Just say
That's holding on the Cowboys. Sorry.
oh no, okay. No, this Friedo is Friedo's always been very likable.
How many do you think I ask women out?
Well,
Did I give that impression?
Well, I would say
That's
probably,
okay. Just answer honestly.
I would say
think about it,
quite a
just
few.
answer.
I'd say quite a few. I would guess.
I think you'd be very surprised.
Okay.
No, I don't ask women out.
Okay.
I let the game come to me.
There you go. There you go. Those
bet they
are
were great
Dave's
teams.
rules of dating.
I think you're a
Yes.
good dude, David. I just think you just need to be yourself. And now, if I had your personality, I wouldn't be single right now. Maybe.